Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Coming at you after, embarrassing loss up in Lexington, 38-7. Kentucky beats Florida. Didn't see that coming. I predicted a close Florida win. I didn't see anything like this coming. We'll get into it, of course, and what happened, maybe why it happened. Good luck on that one of why it happened. Team ain't good. I just didn't think Kentucky was that much better than Florida, of course. So embarrassing with this 38-7 loss to Kentucky. So we'll get into it all. I'm not going to change what I do right here after these games. Yes, well, I was about to say, yes, we have to talk about it. We don't. I mean, I'm glad some of you are in here, and kind of the joke that's been going on with all the games Florida has lost is these are just some group therapy sessions now. It's just what they're going to be, I guess. But that's where we find ourselves right now. So thanks for hopping in for another episode. And I guess, we don't have to talk about it, but we will talk about it. But I see some comments. We'll get into some of those, of course. But everybody hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so yet on Gators Breakdown, rather here on YouTube or the podcast version. Subscribe right there on your favorite podcast platform. But hey, thanks for hopping in right here with this live reaction, live recap of this game. Yeah, we'll recap it just kind of like we do every Saturday night after these games. But it is certainly very disappointing. But don't disappoint me. Hit that like button. That really helps us out. And if you want even more conversation, you certainly can join Gators Breakdown Plus and I guess live in the misery there too. Right there on that Discord. I mean, the conversations are still fun. Talking about this team, talking about the coaching search, all that stuff. If you want to get into it all right there. Hey, there's a basketball channel there too. We can talk about the basketball team and all that if you want. But it's just, been crazy right there. You get ad-free episodes of Gators Breakdown. Go to gatorsbreakdownplus.com. You can sign up starting at $3 a month. Yeah, it's a cup of coffee. But yeah, what an ugly one here. I'll get into some comments right quick and then we'll get into it. Junior says, hey, Junior, thanks one more time, man. Really thought we'd play well tonight. Boy, was I wrong. Go Gators. We'll be back. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see it either. Would I have been surprised by a Kentucky win? Absolutely not. A 38-7 win? Sure. Looking like this? Yeah. For Florida, a little surprised. We have not seen the team look like this since the Texas game last year. Now, the USF game was embarrassing as well because of who you lost to. I don't care how good they're supposed to be this year. That was embarrassing losing to USF. And what we also thought was supposed to be a better Gator team going back to that time. So that was embarrassing as well. But just looking completely inept on both sides of the ball, special teams tonight as well. But, early pump by Tommy Doman that goes like 20 yards. I mean, this was hideous in every angle of the game. Kentucky has not looked like this. I mentioned Florida not looking like this all season long. Kentucky hasn't looked like this all season long. And goes and puts up 38 points on Florida. Turnover DJ Lagway 3 times in the first half. Make him get benched. I mean, Kentucky scored 10 points last week against Auburn. So they didn't look like this either. So anybody who says, I saw this coming, no, you didn't. You might have been down about Florida. You didn't see 38-7 coming. And if you did, it was out of spite. There's no way you actually believed it. You would have never went to Vegas and put your money on 38-7 Kentucky over Florida. If you did, you're lying. I know you are. So there. Luke Malcolm, 9928, says Billy G had the boys playing for the patch. Well, yeah. No. There's no defense for what we saw tonight. Didn't look like players gave a crap. Maybe checked out. Colton Johnston says, and this kind of goes to the point. I get what he's saying. I don't think he means it and what I was going. Well, that was disappointing, Colton says. Not sure why we would expect anything less. Well, I'd expect something less because Kentucky hadn't shown that either. So did I expect an awesome performance? No. Like I said, I barely picked Florida to win. I admitted I was torn. And I went with my bias. When I'm torn, I go with the bias. So that's where I'm picking Florida. But no. Wally Gator says, he's tired of losing. Troy Davis says, what are we drinking on tonight? Soccer Rant says 3-9 loading. Hey, it might be. SBW 280. We can't go lower, right? I mean, I guess if you lose out in some way, I guess maybe. I don't know. Wally Gator, DJ Lagway has 3 games remaining on his Florida Gator tenure. And we'll get into that storyline too. L Wolf, this one hurts. We are the new Vandy. And that's why we made a coaching change. Luke says, Lang going to get cute, go for the shutout next week. I can feel it. And Deja reacts, UF and Vandy have swapped places. Yeah, maybe so. Lily, we suck, obviously. And Kojak, it's cathartic. Great way to put it. Dane Watson will go right here, and then this is where I will go into kind of my reaction to it all. Players are checking out is why, more so than before, maybe. I'm not sure. But I do expect a lot of departures at season's end, more so than the usual given the portal. But I embrace everything that comes with the Gators getting better. Yeah, who knows what happens with the coaching change? Yes, obviously you're going to have some. We heard about it tonight. Tank Hawkins, right there on the broadcast, it was said he's going to redshirt and does not plan on playing. So using the 4-game redshirt rule, yeah, he's checked out. It wouldn't be a part of this. Couple ways to look at that. It is a lost season in a lot of ways because you fired the head coach. Would you love players to play for the passion, play for? Sure. This is a business now in a whole lot of ways. So certainly, that's an angle to it all. Is you want to put it on the player? Do you want to put it on the program for not, playing well and putting the player in that position? It works both ways. If you're a player, you're going to look at it in some ways to save your career. Now, the way Tank Hawkins was playing was able to do something about it. Some guys go out there and were on the field and kind of showed that same mindset for their performance. So some guys, actually checking out by not playing at all. Some guys just are on the field and they're checked out. That's exactly what we saw. That's why it's 38-7 Kentucky. Let's see. So now for Kentucky, we'll get into the game a little bit. Win over Florida in their last 3 contests in Kroger Field. 3 straight times the Gators have gone to Lexington and taken a loss. Was asked, on the radio last week, did I see the bottom falling out? I didn't think so. But also did say I didn't know how the team would react after last week. And I heard the broadcast talking about this too. You get the interim high, as they like to call it. It's all kind of change. And for Florida, it was Billy Napier's no longer the play caller, and Ryan O'Hara and Russ Callaway are going to call plays, and it's going to cater more to the team. And we didn't know what it was going to look like. You saw some good things last week versus Georgia, but still didn't amount to a whole lot as far as yardage and big plays and the offense just going up and down the field. We didn't see that. Still had a chance to win. Defense kept you in it, but ultimately could not make the plays when it mattered. So, offense, for everything that was supposed to be different and some things that did look different, in the end, it didn't really matter. But there was plenty to be hyped forward, all the change. But once that change is put to the test and it doesn't work, what would happen? So I thought the team would, show up, play hard, because that's what they've done, win or lose, all season long. Effort has been there all season, but just not good enough to finish. Couldn't finish games. Well, against Kentucky tonight, it was all terrible. Every bit of it. Questionable effort. Lagway looks completely lost. Offensive line getting blown up in the run game. No havoc on defense. No pass rush. Secondary looks lost. If it looked bad, if it could look bad, it did look bad. So I was asked, going back to last week, could the bottom fall out? I guess it was possible. Certainly looks like it tonight. But I probably had to see this performance a little bit. Because, hard fought loss versus Georgia, and you had that interim high. You put all that change to the test. How was the team going to respond? Well, they didn't respond worth a crap. This is exactly what it looked like. It's exactly what it looked like. I didn't know how they'd react. Like I said, you had to go back to the Texas game last year to see any kind of performance like this. Against a conference opponent, an SEC opponent. But Texas was one of the best teams in the country last year. And at that time, Florida looked like one of the worst teams and then somehow went on the 4-game winning streak. This was a bad Kentucky team versus a bad Florida team. And then tonight, it was an even worse Florida team versus what might be a Kentucky team that's getting their act together. But like I said, it was an ugly 10-3 win versus Auburn last week when Hugh Freeze gets fired. So it's not like Kentucky was coming off. I mean, they barely lost to Texas, but it's not like they were coming off of a big win over Georgia or some big hyped up opponent. They were coming off a win over Auburn. They just fired their coach. And then a week later, it was Florida who played Georgia last week and played them tough, played one of the best teams in the nation and looked, quote unquote, good in the loss. But I guess all that change, all that high from that wasn't going to bleed over into this week. The game was pretty much over with at halftime. I mean, you look at the first half, both Florida and Kentucky, both 38 plays in the first half. It was 24-7 Kentucky at halftime. I mean, Florida had 4 turnovers. Kentucky had 3. Kentucky 5.7 yards per play. Florida was 3.8. Kentucky 65 yards rushing. Florida with 60. Not a lot of difference there. Difference was the quarterback. At halftime, Boley for Kentucky, 150 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Lagway, 83 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. And the 1 touchdown, Florida put in position by a muff punt. So didn't have to drive all that long. Lagway, 83 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions in the first half, gets benched. Rightfully so. Many of you wanted it earlier. But bench rightfully so after performing like that. Whether it's just a reset to get his mind right, whether that's an indication of a quarterback change, we don't know yet. I don't know if Billy G has said. I'm sure his post game is up right now. I'll try and look it up while we're here live in the episode, see if we can get something of what he said. But does that mean an open competition this week in practice? Well, like I said, was it just give Lagway a break, put him in a different mindset? Is it Tramel Jones' job now from now on? Who knows? I don't know yet. They probably don't know either. But I would, at the very least, think it's an open competition this week. 21 points in the second quarter for Kentucky. That was their highest in a quarter all season long. For this defense that had been don't break throughout the year, we have looked at metrics that say, okay, not a great defense, but find ways to get it done. Find ways to keep games close. Defense didn't do their part either. I mean, those first half drives for Kentucky, 75 yards, 59 yards, 54 yards. It's not like they had short drives. There was plenty of time for the defense to make their presence felt. Like I said, no presence in the backfield, no pressure whatsoever. Secondary looked lost. Devin Moore, Sharif Denson got ate up in the first half. Javari Flowers, of course, who's played well for a freshman this year, had a rough game. You go back to the key drive for me in the first half, where you could probably tell it wouldn't be a good night. Florida just takes that 7-3 lead after a muff punt. And then the defense just no-shows on the ensuing possession. Kentucky converted a 3rd and 6 from their own 29. And then here's the yardage after that. 8-yard play, an 11-yard play, 7, 6, 5, 29-yard touchdown, 10-7 Wildcats. So it wasn't looking good, but you get the muff punt, you take the lead, and then just let Kentucky march right down the field. And then a big chunk play to score a touchdown. Kentucky averaged 7.1 yards on first down in the first half. 7 yards on first down. Florida averaged 2.6. And then you go to another key drive. All right, you get to halftime. Maybe you can make some things happen. Maybe. But then the first drive after halftime, Kentucky had 3rd and 7 from their own 44, and then another completion, 13 yards to just a wide open wide receiver. I mean, how many times did we see a Kentucky basic out route, something on the sideline, nobody around them? There was nobody. I have no reason why. I have no idea why. This is not a great Kentucky wide receiver group. They have gotten better as Boley has come in, but Florida should have just been able to man up. But no, there was nobody around them. Nobody around these receivers for a good portion of the night. So they get a wide open, it's 3rd and 7. Their own 44. It's a 13-yard completion to a wide open Kentucky receiver to the Florida 43. And then Kentucky goes on to run the ball 7 straight plays. 5 yards, 6 yards, 9 yards, 2 yards, 5, 11, 5 to the end zone for another Kentucky touchdown. I mean, at 31-7 right there, right after halftime. That's the key drives right there. 2 key drives right there. Like I said, the game was over way after halftime, but if you weren't sold it wasn't yet, just let Kentucky come out, do whatever they wanted to on the first drive after halftime. Convert a 3rd and 7, and then just run the ball right down your throat the rest of the game. He had a 65-yard touchdown run in the game as well. That made it 38-7. So for all the good talk about this defense, not tonight. Not getting your roses tonight. Wasn't getting it last week too much either. As I said, in crucial moments last week, couldn't get it done. But kept Florida in the game. Didn't keep Florida in the game tonight. Both sides fully to blame tonight. Against Kentucky. James McNabb just signed up as a member right here. Thank you much. Right here on YouTube, James. So I know some of that out there. Since Florida's has fired Billy Napier, have interim coach here, there's kind of a notion out there that, performance like this lessens the ability to get a certain coach. No, it doesn't. You fired a coach for a reason. It's not like this is a regular occurrence. It really doesn't matter. You fired a coach for a reason. The results afterwards will have no effect whatsoever. Florida can go and lose for every game from here on out 40-0. That's not going to make a coach say, well, never mind. It's not such a good job now. No. Coaches are smarter than that. You heard the broadcast talk about it all night. This team is a lot more talented than what we've said it all year. This team is more talented than what they show. This is why you fired a coach. This is why you fired a coach. This is why you're moving on. That's why you're looking for a new coach. Kind of on that note, Kenny says, Dave, please tell us we're getting Lane. This offense is terrible. I can't tell you we're getting Lane. I'd love for that to be it. If I had to go to Vegas and slap money down on who would be, that Lane would be my choice. But we'll see where it goes. I have no idea. Also on that same point, Napier and his coaching staff ruined these kids and their development. Yeah, that's why nothing changes with how these performances go from here on out. It has no bearing. If a coach out there is looking at Florida and is interested at Florida, what Florida did on the field against Kentucky tonight is not going to change that mind. whatever Florida does against Ole Miss and Tennessee and Florida State, that is not going to have an impact whatsoever. It's just not. Mark Pickard. Hope I said that right, Mark. Why is this offensive line so bad? It was supposed to be a strength, but they look terrible. Yeah, man. I go back to last year, and I was slammed in the preseason when I said this offensive line, that I was hearing this offensive line was going to have some issues. I got slammed. And then they started the season off bad. Did get better as the season went on. But even as the season went on last year, and we were coming into this year, now I jumped on board to think they were going to be better. But to be fair, when I was asked biggest questions about this team, offensive line was always one of the first places I went. Because I was like, okay, when they did get better last year, it was in the run blocking department. And while the sack numbers were okay, it was a mirage to me. Because a lot of that was DJ Lagway escaping sacks himself, making plays, getting away from a rush, getting outside the pocket, shoving defenders off. He had to do too much. And now we're seeing it this year. But also, they didn't take while they got better at run blocking last year, I thought all that experience would bleed over into the next year. That they would take that experience, and then that would mean something for another step. We haven't gotten that step. I mean, I think the broadcast show tonight, I forgot the exact stat, but the stat was Jaden Ball is 6th in the country in broken tackles. Well, that's because he has to break so many tackles. This offensive line doesn't give him consistently enough room for him to not have to make somebody miss until the second or third level. No, he has to make somebody miss in the backfield. He has to break a tackle in the backfield to go get 2 or 3 yards. When instead of making somebody miss at the second or third level, and it's a big chunk run or an explosive run. We haven't seen that to any consistency. I mean, I got to go look. I got to see how many 10-yard runs Jaden Ball has, 15-yard runs Jaden Ball has, 20. I don't, off the top of my head, don't think we've seen it. I'll look up tonight. He had 17 carries for 64 yards, 3.8 yards. His long was 13 tonight. His longest carry was 13 yards. And Kentucky's defense is good. They're not that good. The Florida offensive line not helping him at all. And if I click on it here, we'll just go through it. His long was 13. So here we go. Here's Jaden Ball's run log tonight. 1 yard, -1, -2, 5, 2, 2, 8, -1, 8, -2, 8, 13, 1, 3, 5, 7, 7. We watch enough football, we know it's not Jaden Ball. He ain't got no help in front of him. So yeah, it was supposed to be a strength. I had questions. And once again, I guess it was more hope. I bought in that, okay, all this experience will pay off. This path of development of using 2 offensive line coaches, and this is what they built for. This was Jake Slaughter and Austin Barber returning. Najee Harris returning. We had some questions on the right side. Would Damian George take a step by being able to being that full-time guard? What would right tackle do? That was the biggest question. Would Damian George take another step at right guard? And at right tackle, we saw something to believe in a young Bryce Lovett at right tackle. Season started off terribly there. Like maybe marginally better. But no, offensive line has taken no steps whatsoever. They have regressed since the end of last year. Big reason why you're looking for a new coach. All right. Harrison says, preach, Dave. Harrison, man, thanks for all the continued support. Kempo Karate, I'd have to go look it up myself, but I mean, it's got to be up there. Lagway has the most interceptions in all of college football. I wouldn't doubt if that's true. I wouldn't. Let's see. We'll get to we'll take a look at some stats right quick. I won't go too far into it, but it, like I said, help tell the story a little bit of the game. Oh, everybody, one more time. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Thanks for hopping in here. Group therapy session. That's Florida falls to 3-6 on the season, 38-7 Kentucky. And then let's see here. Total yards, 401 yards for Kentucky, 247 for the Gators. 233 rushing yards for Kentucky, 104 for the Gators. 5.3 yards per rush for Kentucky, 3.3 for the Gators. 3 rushing touchdowns for Kentucky, none for the Gators. Yards gained, 243 for Kentucky, rushing 124 for the Gators. Net passing yards, 168 for Kentucky, 143 for Florida. Like I said, most of Kentucky's damage through the air was in the first half. 78% completion percentage, like I said. Of course, you go and, just look at their quarterback, and he's just been improving. He's just been improving week after week. Brought up last week of, just how Boley is looked better in the last handful of games. Like, if you looked at Kentucky's season as a whole, it wasn't going to blow you away, but you could see steps. You could see steps. Like, if I put it in the preview, he could play good enough to beat you. And in the first half, Kentucky's offense had Florida in the blender, especially the DBs. They were lost. Average yards per completion, 9.3 for Kentucky, 7.2 for the Gators. Red zone attempts, 3 for 4 for Kentucky, 1 for 1 for Florida. And only in the red zone only once. And that was because of the muff punt. I mean, eek. Trying to remember. Florida was 7 of 15 on third down. That was much better in the first half. So, pretty ugly there. Got off to a good start on third down for the first time this season. Pretty good on third down, but could not hold that up. 50%, or just under 50%, 7 of 15. 8 of 12 for Kentucky. Florida was 2 for 4 on fourth down, went for it on fourth down 4 times. Kentucky 2 for 3. Their 2 conversions there were on one drive, by the way. They had a touchdown drive where they converted 2 fourth downs. Not a heavy penalized night, only 3 total penalties. Then you go to some defense here. Kentucky with 7 tackles for loss. Florida with only 4. Pass breakups, 4 for Kentucky. Quarterback hurries, 4 for Kentucky, only 1 for Florida. Both teams only had 1 sack, but as you see, Kentucky had 4 quarterback hurries. Then just a turnover fest as well. Going to that turnover fest, looking at the Florida stats here. DJ Lagway, 11 of 19, 83 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and just some terrible interceptions. I mean, overthrows, throws that were behind, throws that just down the field, too much air under them. Have a receiver going down the seam. Just put it on for another round of third in the seam. But no, just Kentucky in their safe zone defense just launches it in the air. Easy interception for Kentucky. Just Lagway was lost once again. Tremel Jones comes in the second half. a little spark to begin with. You saw some good zip on the ball, some good drop back, set his feet, zing it in there. Florida's driving with him, gets a penalty on the drive. The unsportsmanlike against Lovett. Kind of just derails the drive after that. Don't know how much. Florida didn't have a whole lot of plays in the second half. Kentucky just controlling the clock as well. But Trammell came in. You saw some good early, and then once that penalty, and it was not much there. Targeting Hayden Hansen a lot was Trammell Jones. We hadn't seen that from Lagway against Georgia. And in the first half of this game, Trammell Jones was certainly targeting Hayden Hansen a lot. Hansen had 5 targets overall. If we go to receiving, here's the story of a game. When you're losing 38-7 and your only touchdown is something that was almost kind of gifted to you, Jaden Ball was your leading receiver with 5 catches for 27 yards. Did have the 1 touchdown on that angle route. He was targeted 7 times. So it lets you know kind of how conservative the approach was on offense. Or maybe how conservative it had to be once your quarterback just started throwing the ball to the other team all night. TJ Abrams talking about somebody having to step up because remember, no Dallas Wilson, no Trey Wilson. So there could have been some questions of what the receiver group was going to look like tonight. Aiden Mizell was out there. DB3 was back out there. Tried to get him involved early, but he ended up only having 1 catch for 22 yards. But TJ Abrams, 4 for 28. Along with 17. J. Michael Sturdivant, 3 for 29. Katie Daniels, had 2, so 7. He had 20 completions, and 7 of them were to your running backs. Counting your running backs and tight ends, 9 of the 20. No, my bad. Livingston had 1, so half of your completions were to running backs and tight ends. Somewhat you can expect, given the injuries at receiver. But still, I would hope DB3 would have more than 1 catch. Aiden Mizell more than 2. That's not really a knock on those guys. Kind of hard when your quarterback is, throwing the ball to the other team. And then one more time, Jaden Ball, 17 for 64. 3.8 yards a carry. DJ Lagway, 5 for 27. He did run a little bit more, like we saw last week versus Georgia. Katie Daniels, of course, 4 for 20, had the fumble. So just overall, not a good night. Sharif Denson on defense, 11 total tackles, 9 of them being solo, but, not really a good night in coverage for him. Jordan Castell, 7. Cam James with 6. He had the only sack of the game. He had a tackle for loss. Devin Moore with 6. Like I said, he had a rough night as well. Bryce Thornton, he had the 1 interception late second half. He had 5 tackles. George Gums, 5 tackles for him as well. But, man, that's just not much havoc. You're not getting much from the edge group at all. Tyreek Sapp, only 2 total tackles. He's been a disappointment this year. You're not getting much out of that hand in the dirt edge spot. Tyreek Sapp, Jaden Woods. Not like what we saw from Jaden Woods earlier this year, but as the season has went on, just no consistency. Just from that edge spot at all. George Gums is finally coming around to playing better the last couple of weeks. But when Kentucky just runs up and down the field on you, Miles Graham only had 3 total tackles tonight. That just lets you know how bad of a night it was for the Gator defense. Kentucky's just running up and down the field on you, running for over 200 yards. Miles Graham's got 3 tackles. Aaron Childs had 4. When Denson, Castell, Moore, Thornton are all leading the team in tackles, lets you know that's your storyline right there. That Kentucky's getting to the second and third levels before they're getting tackled. Miles Graham, Jaden Robinson, they need to be the ones up there. Just rough day for the defense. Jaden Robinson only one total tackle there. Your linebackers, your highest linebacker was Aaron Childs with 4. 3 of them being solo. Ouch. And then let's see. Compared to big plays here, Kentucky, 4 passing plays of 15 yards or more, 29, 15, 25, 17. 2 of those being touchdowns. And then for as far as rushing, it was kind of like I mentioned it earlier when I went through just a couple of those drives where they kind of just nickel and dime Florida. They're big rushing plays, and that's defined as 10 plus, 11, 14, 11, and then the 65-yarder. But it was just, they just nickel and dime Florida in the run game. Florida, not a lot of tackles for loss. It was just 5 yards here, 6 yards there, 7 yards there. And Florida through the air, big passing plays, 22 and 17, and then 1 rush in that department for 13 yards. So 8 total big plays defined as passing plays 15 yards or more, and runs 10 or more. Kentucky with 8 total, Florida with 3 total. There you go. And then let's look at third down. Florida was 7 of 15, Kentucky 8 of 12. Average third down distance to go, Florida was 6.7, Kentucky 5.2. There's your third down. So, yeah, there's your stats. There's your stats. There's your stats. Not pretty, but telling you the story of the game. Smash that like button one more time and let me get back to some more comments, everybody. Chase Wester says, didn't expect the team to just quit. Kind of sad to see, man. I didn't either. I talked about it this week. And I'll go to the, comment or whatever, and I'll own up and say I said it. I don't really think any different. Yeah, I said Florida could win every game from here on out. I will still say it. Florida can win every game from here on out. I wouldn't pick it. But no, there was no way to see this kind of performance coming. This team had, no matter who they were playing, found a way to be in the games. No matter how bad the teams were, no matter how good the teams were, Florida played everybody tough up to this point. And I'm not trying to sound moral victory. I'm just a matter of a fact here. Didn't mean anything in win-loss record, but Florida was putting themselves in position and could not finish games. I'll just go back to the point. All the change, I guess if it was ever going to happen, you had that interim high and it didn't work out. So if it was ever going to happen, I guess it could be now. We'll see how they respond. I have, again, no idea. But now, to finish out the rest of the season, next week you're playing the best team you got to play the rest of the year. On the road at Ole Miss. Payback for last year. All the Lane Kiffin talk. Who knows how that one's going to go? It probably won't be pretty. And then you return home for Tennessee and FSU. FSU just lost to Clemson too. So when Florida plays FSU, that's 2 terrible teams playing. Florida can lose every game from here on out. But I'll still say, can they beat Tennessee? Yes, they can. I ain't picking it. Can they beat Florida State? Sure they can. And I'll probably pick that one. It's last game. That's a rivalry game. Last game of the season. Even if the team had looked like they quit against Kentucky, against Ole Miss, against Tennessee, something tells me they'll probably still show up for that one. Now, I would expect a close, ugly game between 2 bad teams in the last game of the season with the way everything looks right now. But that'd be a game Florida can win. Soldier Slim said, thoughts on Lane's troll tweet tonight? I'll be honest, Soldier, I haven't seen it. I guess let me pull up Twitter right quick. I mean, I've been doing the show right here, so no, I haven't seen it. Let's see. Lane does follow me on Twitter, so let's see. It's easy to find. Okay, here we go. I guess why? Because he reposted the. I guess because he reposted the Florida bench DJ Lagway. If that's what it is, okay. I mean, yeah, kind of surprising he would retweet that, I guess. I don't know what that tells us. Good, bad, indifferent? I don't know. Don't try to read into that stuff too much anyway. It is Twitter and social media, and who knows what's going through Lane's mind there. I have no idea. I will say this at the very baseline of it. Interesting that he does retweet that. Don't know what it means. We can sit here all night and debate what it means. Good, bad, indifferent. I have no idea. But thanks, Soldier, for the donation there. Guys, there's a lot of comments. Not trying to nickel and dime here, but the only way I'm for sure going to see your comment, and like I said, keep it respectful, all that stuff. If you want me to read it on there, if you want my comments on what you got to say, really the only way is to do the super chat. I will certainly see all of those, but there's too many to go through. Bad producing podcasting if I just be quiet for a second and try to read through all the comments. And so a lot of times when I do this, it's just random. I'll pick a random one because there's just so much. If I see a name and I know you're a constant supporter, I'll try and get it in here as well. But if you really want me to see it, it's going to have to be in the super chat. Okay. Noidzer. Tank is a non-factor. He had 2 receptions this season. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's more about the storyline of it all. As far as production goes, agree. We all have high hopes for somebody like Tank Hawkins, but I haven't seen it. And probably in some ways, no fault of his own, given what we've seen from the staff. But you're right. It is a non-factor. The only reason it is somewhat of a factor just right now in the moment is because of the injuries at receiver. That's the only reason. If Dallas was out there and Trey was out there and you had the full arsenal of the receivers who were above him on the depth chart, it is certainly a non-factor. It's only a little bit of a factor at this moment in time because of the injuries Florida has at receiver. Harrison, man, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, but this was just another example of it. It is very shocking, man. The fall of Lag is very shocking, says Harrison. It is for me, too. And I know if you've listened to Gators Breakdown a lot, you've heard me say it a lot. I will blame myself. I will critique myself. I didn't think any of this offseason stuff would be that big of a factor. And if it was going to be a factor, I did say this too, there would be a time he would catch up. Well, he hasn't. Kind of going back to the offensive line and Jaden Ball and stuff, I thought that would be better. And Florida could lean on that till Lagway caught up. It would help Lagway. But no, we haven't got there yet either. So, Lagway, no progression whatsoever, a regression since last year. And then with that, you pair that the offensive line and the run game isn't there either. So that's why the offense looks as bad as it does. But I will still say, with all the time missed and the injuries and all that, I still find it shocking how bad he is. It is bad. It is shocking how bad it is. And the biggest question for him is it salvageable? I'm sure they're going to think it is, and they should. They should. Is it salvageable at Florida? That's the next biggest question. Is it salvageable for him? Then is it salvageable at Florida? What does the next coach think? Whoever that may be. What does an offseason look like for DJ Lagway? If it's based on injury, if most of this is because he's not healthy, then what does an offseason look like? Is he going to have to miss more time because he's not healthy? Is it all the rest that he needed in the springtime to get that shoulder right? Does he now need rest again? Does he need surgery? Either way, that means he's going to be missing time. If he needs to rest, reps are going away that way. If he needs surgery, reps are going away that way. Or maybe it's not, and maybe he can have a full offseason. I don't know if we know the answer to that yet. I don't think he's healthy. I don't know what that means for him in the offseason. It does. I would say the outlook's probably not great. Me guessing here, no intel, no nothing on this, just dating back to maybe what should have happened last year. I say probably surgery in the future, and that means he's going to miss some time. So what does that look like for him? Does that affect his decision to go somewhere else? Does that affect the decision of the next head coach to want Lagway or not? There are so many, and then NIL and how much of the roster space he's taken up. All these are fair questions, and they're going to be probably debated a good bit in the next couple of months. It is going to be fascinating watching all that and how it turns out. But all those questions right there and how this turns out, all those avenues are all on the table. And I don't know if anybody has the answer right now except maybe Lagway and maybe which way he's leaning right now. But for me right now, it's probably, hey, I just got benched. What do I do? Brian says, this is a good way to look at it. Felt like for the first time they quit on both sides of the ball. I can see that. Like you go to the Texas game that I bring up last year, there were a lot of injuries. It was the first game with Aiden Warner starting at quarterback. There was a lot of that to be understood last year. There really was when you look at it. But I didn't expect that performance because Florida had a bunch of injuries anyway. After that, the defense had played better. But you can explain it that way if you want. I wouldn't say they quit last year on offense. They just weren't very good with Aiden Warner. That's where it was. This year, you could say against Kentucky that it looked like the defense had quit. Kentucky has not looked like that all season long. If I'm not mistaken, sorry guys, my nose is itching. So Kentucky scored 38 points. LSU scored 20 on Florida. Miami scored 26. Texas scored 21. Texas A&M scored 34. Mississippi State 23. Georgia 24. That's the highest Florida has given up all year against Kentucky. I mean, there you go. So if players or staff or whoever doesn't like the word quit, how is she going to explain that? How is she going to explain the most points you've given up or is not the best offense you've played this year? Georgia's offense is better. Mississippi State's offense is better. Texas's offense is better. Miami's offense is better. They didn't score as much as Kentucky did tonight. Some of that, yeah. Your quarterback turned the ball over a lot. Sure. Turned the ball over a lot against LSU, too, and you only gave up 20 points. Each game's different. I know. But if you don't want the label of quit or effort, you don't let Kentucky score 38 points on you. Credit to Kentucky. They were ready to play. Just saying, if you follow trends this year, that does not happen. if Florida's ready to go, preparing the right way, and giving the right effort during the 3.5 hours of a game. You don't let Kentucky score 38 points. On that note, Cameron Ridner, hope I'm saying that right, Cameron, but here, Cameron anyway, didn't know that Billy Napier left this much damage behind. I love the guy's heart and character, but wow, tonight was just awful, and we have officially hit rock bottom. Yeah. Positive note, that shirt looks good, Dave. Hey, yeah, there we go. Had to wear orange. You know, we're playing Kentucky. So had to wear orange. Guys, if you want to get into some action, get some action at my bookie. I mean, all kind of action right there. All kinds of action right there at my bookie. NFL action, if you want to get on that Sunday action, casino games, all that stuff right there at my bookie. Florida, of course, was favored tonight. I don't know how you bet on that one. But if you want to bet even more, get in on the NFL action right there at my bookie. All that casino action. You get one account, one wallet, bet football all weekend. Then you can spend some time hitting the slots. All other casino games right there as well. You don't have to switch apps. You don't have to jump to another platform. Just straight up action. As far as that NFL action goes, of course you get the game lines. But there's player props and more. They have NFL Super Contest. They have survivor pools. Go bet it all at my bookie. It's your one-stop sportsbook and casino in one. And of course, if you're new to my bookie, use our promo code Gators, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. Make you play. If it doesn't hit, you get it right back with that bet bag bonus. So sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code Gators and claim your bet back bonus. All right. A few more comments, everybody, and then I'll scroll to the bottom. We'll see where we're at. Had to wear a hat too tonight. I put it up on the Discord, the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. First, I asked, hat or no hat tonight? Hat won out. Then I put up a choice of 4 hats. And then shout out to the guys at Alma Mater for the running Gator hat. Love it. Love it. I'm glad this one was chosen because it's probably my favorite hat right now. You guys have to let me know. Hat or no hat? Like it or not? Troy Davis. Ron Roberts refuses to cover the sidelines on 3rd down. He expects only slants and meshes, apparently. I guess I haven't watched enough of Kentucky this year to know if they went against tendency as far as that goes. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly noticeable all night long. I mean, Kentucky, it wasn't that. They were converting 3rd downs or converting chunk passing plays. It was the way it looked. I mean, too many times. Where were the defenders at? Kentucky receivers were on the sideline and nobody around them. Nobody. Man, some of the comments, y'all just getting after it tonight. Some of them I don't want to put on here. Heck yeah, 03. Does getting blown out next week affect our chances of getting Lane? No. I mean, I don't know which way he's leaning, but all I'm saying is, why would it? It would make no sense. You fired a coach for a reason. I don't think it has an effect one way or the other. Nathaniel saying he's not hurt. He'd be riding the bench post. Napier firing if he was hurt, talking about Lagway. He's not 100%. I don't care what you say. I mean, but I've said all season it's not the full excuse for what we see. I mean, the reads are terrible. Said it earlier about the throw down the field to VB3. The pass that was behind ball. I mean, he can still be blamed for some of the things. Doesn't mean he's not hurt. And more things can be true at one time. You would not convince me he's 100%. But there's other quarterbacks out there who probably aren't 100% that are playing much better. Maybe not 100% coming into this year either, that are playing much better. Guys who have got injured during the season who aren't 100% and playing much better. Then at that point, you go back to all the preseason time he missed. All these things are affecting DJ Lagway. That's why it looks as bad as it does, in my opinion. Mentally, he's not ready in there. Physically, certainly not there. It's a combination of it all. Talking about how out of shape he is. Well, he wasn't able to practice a whole lot during the offseason either. A lot of that was contributing him to being out of shape. And then you do bring up a good point. Yeah, poorly coached and anchored to an absolute doofus of a coordinator. That's true too. I mean, you put it out there except for the hurt part. Everything else you said, I completely agree with. I do think he's hurt as well. But everything else you said, it's true too. It's true as well. Kyle 850 looks like a Knowles fan. FSU UF might be an instant classic this year. Could be. I mean, two bad teams can play a great game. We see it all the time. It can be that. It can be that. Okay. Troy Davis. I'm over talking about this abomination, and then goes to, I just enjoy Dave in the game. Then tells me, Dave, we got to give that up. Probably going back to, how I think Florida can finish the season or will finish the season. We may not win another game before we win out. Like, I'm not picking Florida to win out. I'm just saying the way, besides the game tonight, and the reason I said that coming in is Florida has been in every game. That's the only point I was making. I even said I would not pick Florida to win the rest of the games. I would not. Just saying there were reasons to believe, not even believe, reasons you can see that it would happen. Before the Kentucky game, just being in every game. And then, then you're playing Kentucky. A team that was very on par with you. Okay, you can win that game. Ole Miss, the best team you will play. Somehow you found a way to beat them last year. Somehow they played the same Kentucky team very close out here this year. They lost to Georgia and a team that you played very well against last week. I hate the transitive property, but you see where I'm just kind of going with maybe why Florida can keep it close and find a way to win a game. Tennessee, we know their struggles in the swamp. It's been well chronicled. They've had their own close games and games against teams they shouldn't have been close with this year, but found themselves. And then Florida State. Self-explanatory. Brian says, any news on Moore? Did he come back after he went out? I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure. Almighty says, I'm assuming an FSU fan, at least Florida plays hard. FSU looks like an undisciplined high school team. Almighty was not that way for Florida tonight. It did not look like Florida was playing hard tonight. And look, that's not a blanket statement for everybody, for the entire team. It's an overall sentiment. Of course. I mean, it looks like, to me, Jaden Ball is going out there and doing his all. Heck, even DJ Lagway might be just not that good right now. I mean, it's hard to quantify that. I usually hate to live in that world of look like they've checked out. They're not giving it their all. The results tell that to me. 38-7 against Kentucky. But to quantify that, to pick out certain players or anything, that's a little bit harder in my opinion. Mike Dukes, just explains how bad it was. I mean, I brought it up too. Our offense didn't have a scoring drive tonight, thanks to the muff punt we scored. Yep. Ready for a new beginning next year. Go Gators. Looks like we're going home bowling. That's a no-go. Florida's got to win out to go to a bowl game. Sitting at 3-6. You got to be 6-6 to make a bowl. So that means Florida's got to beat Ole Miss. Florida's got to beat Tennessee. Florida's got to beat Florida State. And that ain't happening. So Florida's not going to a bowl game. And maybe that was your point about home bowling, I guess. Yeah, Florida will be bowling at home. Brian had a 7-hour road trip home. Spent it pissed off watching that crap show. Defense couldn't stop anything. Offense couldn't start anything. Yep. Junior brings up a good point. It is, besides last year, Stoops significantly outcoached us and Kentucky outplayed us, keeping on their trend. That's the way it has been going lately with this team, Florida and Kentucky. One team just looks like they want it more every time these two teams get together. Brandon from Gator Drywall. Can we just fast forward to the Sunday after the FSU game? Tonight was gross. Yeah, this was, for as bad as this season has been, this was still a game you circle to say, all right, maybe Florida can win this one. Maybe the team can look somewhat competent. Maybe what we saw last week against Georgia, I brought this up last week. You look at, there can be some improvement from game 1 to game 2. We all hear that at the beginning of the season. Well, you had some stuff with the new staff, the new offensive staff. And Russ Callaway and Ryan O'Hara can learn some things in the new setting last week against Georgia. They can learn some things and take it to their second game in this new format. Nope. Maybe they're handcuffed. When your quarterback is playing that bad, it's very hard to do some things. When your offensive line can't block, it's hard to do some things. It's hard to call some plays. I think that's where it starts first and foremost. Then they made the decision to go to Trammell. And like I said, there was a little bit of a spark, a little bit of a good. Then the penalty just derails it all, and then nothing really happens after that for the rest of the game. Kyle 850 says, don't forget, Seminole fan here, Kyle's again. Don't forget our last road win was at the Swamp in 23. This is all about, I have to brag about the past 2 seasons besides Bama in the first game. Yep, that is true. That is true. Captain G, rival fans checking in tonight. Thank you guys too. Dave is great. Georgia fan, but Dave and Will are so much better than our guys. Really enjoy Gators Breakdown. You guys don't deserve this Ray Golf crap. Going back to the early 90s there. And I kind of get that sentiment. Ray Golf, of course, had to go up against Spurrier. So that wasn't, I loved it. I was still in my infancy, though. Not infancy, but I was 10 years old in 93. So there you go. Yeah. So most of the Ray Golf years, I was 8, 9, 10, in that range, 11 years old. And then Georgia goes to Jim Donnan and then Mark Richt, of course. At that time, there was a lot of For Ray Goff, it was supposed to have a team that was good enough and then couldn't get over the hump. Those teams were probably a bit better than what we've seen right here under the Billy Napier regime. But yeah, it is a good comparison, because it is probably the best comparison I can say for Georgia since I've known football. Jim Donnan took it a step up from Ray Goff. And then Mark Richt took it even more of a step from Jim Donnan. And then Kirby Smart took it even another step. So it's just been each coach from Ray Goff, firing him. Jim Donnan made it better. And then Mark Richt made it better. And then Kirby Smart made it even better. That was a conversation tonight, too. And it has been a conversation about this coaching search for Florida. Is, firing all these coaches and, is it right to be doing that? Does it mean your program's in the dumps? No, it doesn't mean that. I will say it one more time till I'm blue in the face. I will repeat it. I will repeat it. I will repeat it. It is a hiring problem, not a firing problem. I'm not comparing Florida to Alabama. But you go and look at Alabama before Saban, and it was rinse and repeat. And it was a car wash. And it was, we're going to try this coach. It didn't work. All right, bye. We're going to try that coach. It didn't work. All right, bye. Trying this one. All right, bye. I have no problem. Give them 3 years. Every coach gets 3 years. Unless it's just god awful. If you're Willie Taggart, awful. Sure, bye. See ya. But I'm okay with 3 years. Most people should be. You might have an inclination before that third year, but you want to be fair with it all. So unless it's just an absolute dumpster fire, 3-4 years. But let's not. Florida's, to me, has never acted too fast in this. And maybe that's where some of the discussion of we look at this the wrong way as fans. No, to me, you're not going to sell me on that. Florida's made the right decisions. Plenty patient enough with Billy Napier. Plenty patient enough with Dan Mullen. Now, if you had given Dan Mullen another year, fine. Like, I wanted to move on, but you could have made the case for hanging on. They don't give me, well, you hired Billy Napier. That has nothing to do within the moment. It's just two bad decisions in a row. It didn't work out with Dan Mullen. It didn't work out with Billy Napier. The hire of Billy Napier has nothing to do with firing Dan Mullen. People say, well, he only had one bad year. Florida moved on too fast. No, you do not forget the end of 2020. How 2020 turned, oh, you made the SEC championship game. I don't care. Yeah, great in the moment. But you lose to Texas A&M. You lose to LSU. Kiss your playoff chances really goodbye with that one. If you don't lose to LSU, you go to SEC championship game against Alabama, you probably still have a chance at the playoff. Maybe. And then the bowl game after that, and letting everybody know you didn't really care. The end of 2020 has just as much of a factor of moving on from Dan Mullen as the 2021 season did. So don't tell me Florida moved on too fast. You could have made a case for another year, but Florida didn't move too fast. Jim McElwain, perfect. Nope, see ya. Plenty of time. Will Muschamp, plenty of patience was shown. Goodbye, see ya. What if those guys did after their Florida jobs to prove that Florida made the wrong choice? Nothing. And the same will be the case for Billy Napier. The case will be the same for him. Nothing happened that should, well, Florida got rid of those guys too soon. Ha ha, look at that. Nope. Nothing happened there. So Whoever the next guy is, if you don't get it done 3-4 years, try again. Patience for the sake of patience. That ain't going to work out. Okay. There we go. I didn't expect to go down that rabbit hole again, but I did. Cameron Bolin says, we gave Napier too much time. Should have been going last year. Probably would have made the coaching search a whole lot easier. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for one more therapy session. Mertz, I4L, Mullins 6-1. I'm assuming that's at UNLV. Great. That's UNLV. He was never winning a title at Florida. I see the comments in here as well. He was checked out. One more, and I'll end it on this. Robert, I can't jump that far, man. Robert says, sadly, I thought this team had talent. Now I know it's a complete rebuild. It is not a complete rebuild. It is not. And you have a portal as well. So to me, that's part of the reason you fired Napier is because now I'm not saying it's the best talent in the country. I am not saying that by any means. But you have talent to compete. I mean, we see Ole Miss in the top 4 of the SEC, Texas A&M in the top 4 of the SEC. You know, Vandy's up there. All these teams that are in that 4th, 5th, 6th range, Florida should be there on the talent alone. And if you had good coaching, maybe even higher. But to me, talent is 4th, 5th, 6th with what you're seeing in the SEC this year. There's compression. There's a lot of teams that are grouped together. Georgia, Bama, maybe Texas A&M, maybe, if you want to go talent-wise, above the others. But I throw Texas A&M, LSU, Florida, Tennessee, all those teams grouped together as far as talent goes. And then coaching is going to take over from there. But to me, that's one of the main reasons you move on from Billy Napier, because this team has more talent than what they're showing. All right, everybody. That will do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.